seeing job growth month after month, building infrastructure to put people back to work. That is Ted's record. That's Lee's record. So at the federal level and the state level, we have been working hard, but look, we understand we've got a long way to go. We've got a lot of work to do. I know there are a lot of people out there who are still hurting. I know there are families, some of them still hanging by a thread. It keeps me up at night. It keeps Joe up at night. It keeps Ted up at night. That's what we're fighting to fix. But you know what? The way to fix it is not to go back to what got us here. It's to move forward with the policies that are getting us out. See, Ted and Lee and Joe and I, we've got a different idea about what the next few years should look like. And it's an idea rooted in our belief about how this country was built. Now, we didn't come from wealth. We didn't come from fame. But our families understood in America, you know, if you work hard, if you're responsible, if you do the right thing, you've got a chance. And our families taught us that government doesn't have all the answers to our problems. Government should be lean and efficient. We can't waste taxpayer dollars, especially at a time as tough as this. But in the words of the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, we also believe that government should do for the people what they cannot do better for themselves. We believe in an America that rewards hard work and responsibility and individual initiative, that believes in the free market, but we also believe in a country where we look after one another, where I am my brother's keeper, where I am my sister's keeper. That's the America I know. That's the America Joe knows. That's the America Ted knows. That's the America you know. An America that invests in its future and in its people. An America that's built to compete in the 21st century. You know, we know the jobs and businesses tomorrow will end up in countries that educate their workers best, that build the best infrastructure, that have the strongest commitment to research and technology. I want that nation to be the United States of America. I want that taking place right here in Ohio, right here in Cleveland. That's how we're going to rebuild. There is absolutely no reason that China should have faster railroads, that Singapore should have newer airports. We're the nation that built the Transcontinental Railroad. We're the nation that built the interstate highway system. Right now, we are seeing thousands of people working to rebuild our roads and our railways and our runways right here in Ohio and all across the country, trying to start to rebuild an infrastructure for the 21st century, putting people to work, doing the work that America needs done. We see in America where we invest in homegrown innovation and ingenuity, where we export more than we import, where we make it easier to start a business or patent an invention. We don't want to keep giving tax breaks to companies that are shipping jobs overseas. I want companies getting tax breaks that are investing in Cleveland and in Dayton and in Toledo and in Ohio and in the United States of America, in small businesses and American manufacturing, which is coming back, and in clean energy companies. I don't want solar panels and wind turbines built in Asia or Europe. I want them made right here in the US of A with American workers. That's the choice in this election. We see an America where every citizen has the skills, the training to compete with any worker in the world. We can't allow other countries to outpace us when it comes to education. We used to be #1 in the rate of college graduation rates. We used to be at the top in math and science. Now we're 9th in the proportion of college graduates, 21st and 25th in math and science. That's unacceptable. And so we made historic investments in education, just like Ted has done here in Ohio. We set a goal that by 2020, we're going to be #1 again in the proportion of college graduates. Now, remember I said it is a choice, this election. The other side, their main economic idea, this is their main idea, is to provide $700 billion worth of tax cuts to the top 2% of earners. The 2% of wealthiest Americans, an average of $100,000 for millionaires and billionaires. Now, look, I want people to succeed. I think it's wonderful if folks get rich. I want everybody to have a chance to get rich. You do too. This guy's raising his hand. I think that's great. That's part of the American dream. But you know, the way they want to pay for these tax cuts is to cut education by 20% and to borrow the rest from other countries. Let me tell you, do you think China is cutting education spending by 20%? Is Germany cutting education by 20%? They're not, because they're not playing for second place. They're playing for first place. And you know what? The United States of America, we don't play for second place. We don't play for 9th place or 21st place or 25th place. We play for #1. And that's what we've got to do in education. And that's why we committed tens of billions of dollars that had been going in unwarranted subsidies to big banks. And we steer that money to where it needed to be going, to students, right here at Cleveland State and all across the country, increasing access to Pell Grants, increasing college scholarships. That's why we want to make permanent our new college tax credit, a tax credit worth $10,000 in tuition relief for each young person who is going to college. That's the choice in this election. That's what America's about. That's what we believe in. We see an America where corporations are thriving and profitable, but where they're also living up to their responsibilities, to treat consumers fairly, to play by the same rules as everybody else. That's why we made sure insurance companies couldn't jack up your premiums for no reason or deny you coverage just because you're sick. That's why we made sure credit companies can't hit you with hidden fees or penalties. That's why we made sure taxpayers are never again on the hook for the irresponsibility of Wall Street banks. And you know, we see in America where we don't pass on a mountain of debt to the next generation. We've got to go after this $1 trillion deficit that I inherited when I took office, but we're going to do it in a responsible way, not by cutting education by 20%, not by burdening our children or our seniors or our veterans or middle-class families. We won't do it by borrowing another $700 billion to give tax cuts to folks who don't need them. We'll do it by asking for shared sacrifice of all Americans. That's the choice in this election. That's the America that we believe in. So look, we've got a lot of work to do over the next few years. Ted's got a lot of work to do here in Ohio. Lee's got a lot of work to do in Washington. And we're going to need to work together, Democrats and Republicans and independents, to get it all done. But you know what? So far, we're not seeing that from the other party. I guess they're feeling cocky, maybe. The Republican leader of the House says, "This is not a time for compromise." That's a quote. The Republican leader of the Senate said his main goal for the next 2 years, his top priority, is to win the next election and to beat me. Think about this. His priority is not to get the economy moving. It's not to create jobs. It's not to reduce the deficit. His top priority is to win the next election. We haven't even finished this election. But you know, that's the mentality that we're fighting against, Cleveland. It's the kind of politics that we've got to change. It's a politics that always puts scoring points ahead of solving problems. And that's where all of you come in, each and every one of you here. The only way to fight that kind of politics, the only way to match the millions of dollars of negative ads that have been pouring down using these phony front groups, millions of dollars of ads. The only way to fight that is millions of voices who are ready to finish what we started in 2008. We've got to get Cleveland out to vote. We've got to get everybody in Ohio out to vote. And in Ohio, you can vote early. There is early voting just a few blocks from here. So you can go right after this rally if you haven't voted. Because if everyone who fought for change in 2008 shows up to vote in 2010, we will win this election. I am confident of that. A lot of you got involved in 2008 because you believed we were in a defining moment in our history. That's what Joe believed. That's what I believed. You believed that we were in a time where the decisions we make won't just affect us. They'll affect our children. They'll affect our grandchildren for decades to come. That's the reason so many of you knocked on doors and made phone calls, and some cast your vote for the very first time. And it turns out, as I said at the time, change isn't easy. Power concedes nothing without a fight. And so, throughout the past 20 months, we have been pushing and working, and I've had a great partner in Joe Biden. Couldn't have a better vice president. And I've had a great partner in Ted Strickland. Couldn't have a better governor than Ted. And we've made progress, but I know that sometimes as we're grinding out this change, and there's all the negative ads and the pundits on TV, and there's still a lot of unemployment out here, and sometimes people feeling discouraged. And I know that some of the excitement of election night and inauguration day starts to fade. You know, Beyonce was singing and Bono was up there, and I know people start thinking, oh, you know, that was fun. Now it just seems like work all the time. And then you guys see me on TV, and boy, he's getting really gray. You see that? He's, you know, it's starting to look it's starting to look old. You know. But look. But look, Cleveland, I want you to remember this. Don't let anybody tell you this fight isn't worth it. Don't let anybody tell you you're not making a difference. Because of you, there's a woman somewhere in Ohio who no longer has to choose between losing her home and treating her cancer. Because of you, somewhere in Ohio, there's a parent who can look their child in the eye and say, yes, you are going to college, we can afford it. Because of you, somewhere in Ohio, there's a small business owner who kept their doors open in the depths of recession. Because of you, there are nearly 100,000 brave men and women who are no longer at war in Iraq because of you. So don't let them tell you that change isn't possible. Because here's what I know. It's always been hard to bring about change in America.